What's up, everybody? It's Josh. This week was filled with an absolutely insane amount of MCU news, like way more news than we've gotten into quite some time, and actually way more news than we even got at D23. You have God among men, Hugh Jackman, one of the very OGs of the original X-Men, coming back to a role that he has now been playing for 20 plus years, and that's the mother-loving Wolverine. I mean, people thought this would be freaking impossible, that he was way done playing this character, and yet they made it happen. He's coming back, and he's going to be in Deadpool 3.
Thank you, Kevin Feige. Love you, Kevin Feige.
Then we had the rumor that they're going to be bringing the Red Hulk back, or I guess just keeping on with the Red Hulk in the MCU after the passing of William Hurt. That's right, the redskin, mustache-wearing, cigar-smoking, Giga Chad himself, Red Hulk, is coming back to the MCU. He's going to be a big part of the Thunderbolts movie. And apparently Marvel Studios wants walking, get off my lawn, grumpy old man Harrison Ford to play the role of Thunderbolt Ross, aka the Red Hulk. And on top of all of that, the freaking Don Cheadle Armor Wars Disney Plus series is no longer going to be a Disney Plus series, and instead is going to be a theatrical release movie, which opens the door for way more crazy stuff, including Robert Downey Jr. coming back as an AI, because we all know there ain't no way Robert Downey Jr. was going to come back for the first time in the MCU in a Disney Plus show. And in fact, this news is so crazy, and there was so many W's being held this week by Kevin Feige that they're conspiratorial among us actually are thinking that this was done in response to a lot of negative things happening for the Marvel Studios brand after She-Hulk, Love and Thunder, and just a general lack of hype out there for the upcoming projects. And the craziest thing about all of this is that I think that might actually be true. Let me explain. Let me be crystal clear about this. I think that Kevin Feige is fixing all of the major problems that the MCU Phase 4 had for the MCU Phase 5. And I also think that this week was no mistake, and he wants you to know that he is fixing it. So let's break down every little awesome piece of news here and explain why it directly addresses one of the major problems that people have with the MCU Phase 4. And let's start with Hugh Jackman Wolverine. This is awesome, but it also addresses one of the biggest complaints about Marvel movies right now, and that is that, well, where's all the old G's, the people we love? Like, who are all these new people? I don't really care about them. I want all of my old favorite Avengers characters back.
He's out of line, but he's right.
And no, this doesn't directly mean that you're going to get Chris Evans back, that you're going to get Robert Downey Jr. back. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is there's this serious lack of nostalgia and comfort characters for Marvel movie fans. I mean, I like a lot of the new characters that Marvel Studios is currently bringing into the mix. But let's be real, there's a lot of new characters that just aren't doing it for people. And I think there are things that Marvel Studios was trying to do that are just not landing, like AKA Sharon Carter being the power broker, being this big crazy villain behind the scenes. It just doesn't seem like that's compelling. It doesn't seem like fans are that into it. Many Marvel fans are currently upset that a lot of their fan favorite characters are not returning to the MCU, at least not anytime soon, and they're mad that these characters are seemingly being replaced. Sometimes people get mad because there's a lot of new female characters being added to the MCU, and although I think for the most part a lot of those complaints about female characters are silly, I do agree that there's a serious lack of dope, awesome alpha male characters. And I've been arguing for some time that there's no reason we can't have a balance. We can have a balance. We can have amazing, incredible female characters and yet still have amazing, incredible, macho, alpha, total, Giga Chad male characters, you know, like the ones in tights that are all muscly doing badass things, you know, from the history of comics, the shit that we've all been loving about it for like ever.
Do I look fat in this outfit?
Bringing back Hugh Jackman, one of the most alpha, just charged up, crazy comic book characters of the last 20 years, putting him into the MCU Deadpool 3 is an absolute win. It's going to fix the nostalgia problem. It's going to get a lot of Marvel fans super excited to see Hugh back in the role, and a lot of fans that have just been craving more brutality, more dope, awesome, strong male characters are going to get that with Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in the Deadpool 3 movie. It's like Kevin Feige came up to us on the playground and we're just a little bit sad because all of our favorite toys are either broken or have been taken away, and he reached into his pocket, pulled out an awesome yellow and blue Wolverine toy and handed it to us and tuffled our hair like a grandpa. And next up, let's talk about Thunderbolt Ross and the Red freaking Hulk. The current MCU version of the Hulk wears cardigans, drinks smoothies, and uses Postmates. And that last one's really not a harsh judgment, but it just is what it is. It's not the Hulk that we want.
I think it's gratuitous, but whatever.
And on top of that, after the Thunderbolts lineup was announced at D23 just a couple of weeks ago, the vast majority of fans were like, yawn, boring, not it. And I think that's because although there are some really fun characters here, Thunderbolts from the comics has always been an dope team filled with all kinds of eccentric people. One of my favorite Thunderbolts team included Flash Thompson, Venom, Red Hulk, General Thunderbolt Ross, freaking Deadpool, and Cable. I mean, come on, man. That's an absolutely star-studded cast of absolute Giga Chad alpha males, and I just wasn't getting those same vibes from the lineup we currently have for the Thunderbolts. But if you bring in Thunderbolt Ross as somewhat being in charge of that team, which also fixes the Val Sharon Carter problem. Oh, what problem, you ask? Just the problem that nobody gives a shit about them. And so it fixes that problem, but it also gives us a big, throbbing, red, muscular solution to the lack of testosterone on this team. And the fact that Marvel Studios is going after a caliber actor as Harrison freaking Ford to be Thunderbolt Ross is absolutely crazy. And yes, I do feel a little bit of cringe at this because it's weird that they're so ready to recast Thunderbolt Ross because they can't see a world without the Red Hulk, and yet they didn't recast T'Challa and they seemingly think they can make somebody else Black Panther and it'll be fine. That's a discussion for an entirely different video. I am in the camp of recast T'Challa, and I actually think they might do the right thing here and eventually recast T'Challa in the MCU. But regardless of that, bringing the Red Hulk into the MCU and making him a part of the Thunderbolts makes that movie a million times more exciting, and I'm so into watching the Red Hulk do his thing. Hopefully Harrison Ford's face, if they end up getting him, looks awesome on the actual Red Hulk CGI design, because Red Hulk actually is able to have his intelligence, use his military prowess, but he doesn't turn into Bruce Banner's Professor Hulk and want to wear cardigans and drink smoothies. The Red Hulk, by the way, gets more hot the angrier he gets. It's really crazy. He's insanely powerful, right up there with the regular Hulk. And so I think seeing that kind of spectacle, those kind of effects in Thunderbolts would be absolutely amazing. And finally, we've got to talk about Armor Wars becoming an actual movie. This is nuts. I mean, we've had many different problems with the Disney Plus shows at the MCU Phase 4. A lot of this stuff feels like it's completely not connected to the wider MCU. Sometimes the shows don't feel like they have the proper budget or scope to really make an impact on us as fans. Like, I feel like Moon Knight, despite being really cerebral and intriguing, just kind of pitters and doesn't have a satisfying ending. All of the final battles are cliche, cut way too short, and they don't satisfy me the way I would have wanted. Same thing with WandaVision. That final battle, big CGI in the freaking sky bullcrap just wasn't it for me, especially when you follow up such an incredible episode 8, which was very intriguing going through the past of Wanda, but it just doesn't get there for me. Hawkeye has this same problem. The only show so far that has absolutely nailed its ending to me is Loki. Other than that, all of the MCU shows just kind of feel like they don't quite get there as replicating the MCU theater experience. And from what we're hearing, the first show that's really going to break that formula, break that mold, and possibly be really damn good is Secret Invasion. And we've recently been hearing a lot more about Secret Invasion, like when Feige said at D23 it was going to directly tie in to Armor Wars. And it seems like the Skrull, and perhaps even more bad actors out there in the universe, are trying to get Tony Stark's tech. And it's going to treat Stark tech as this incredibly powerful thing that cannot fall into the wrong hands, as it should. And I love the idea of Don Don Cheadle being sort of the shepherd of that technology, trying to do the right thing, having this massive thing go on in Secret Invasion, and then have that followed up with an actual theatrical release. And yes, it being a theatrical release does imply that Robert Downey Jr. coming back to either voice the AI or do flashbacks for Rhodey is definitely on the table. I mean, a lot of us Marvel fans have been excited about the idea of Robert Downey Jr. coming back, but a lot of the projects that we think he could come back in have been Disney Plus shows, and it just doesn't seem like that lines up, right? If you're going to bring Tony Stark back, it has to be very impactful, and you also have to pay him like way too much money. And so to make that make fiscal sense, it's very possible that they decided to put it in the movie theaters. And look, real talk here, I'd much rather go watch Armor Wars in theaters than even a lot of the movies we got in Phase 4 and even some of the movies that are going to be in Phase 5. It's a no-brainer, but it shows us, the Marvel fan base, that Marvel is listening to feedback. They understand that the shows are just not doing it for us, and sometimes we feel like the characters they put into these shows deserve more. Like, I personally thought the Miss Marvel show started really strong, but it's so weak towards the end. Its action sequences are so lacking. I would have loved to see Ms. Marvel get the Shang-Chi treatment. Perhaps put both those characters in a film together and allow them to really shine with the big budget effects and action sequences. Now, I know what you're thinking. Josh, you're just a big old Marvel shill, so of course you're going to take all the information that came out this weekend, spin it into a golden web of copium that will make you feel better about where the MCU is headed. And you're not wrong, but also it doesn't mean that I'm wrong. As I like to point out, Marvel has already been through something similar to what happened with Phase 4 at the beginning of the MCU in Phase 2. Phase 1, absolutely rocking, things firing on all cylinders and people absolutely loving the products that were coming out. However, Phase 2 saw a massive dip in quality, and a lot of the sequels to the Phase 1 movies just weren't doing it for fans. Feige listened, Feige found really good feedback, and he adjusted and pivoted, making things much more event-focused and having more wider connective tissue to Endgame and Infinity War, and we all know how that turned out. And I've been saying it for a while now, but I truly believe that the Avengers Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars combo is going to be just as hype, if not more hype, than what we got in Infinity War and Endgame, and it feels like this freaking week was our sort of first sampling of all the hype that is going to be fed to us like a beautiful nerdy charcuterie from Chef Feige himself. Smash a like on this video. Make sure you come by our streaming channel where we talk about all kinds of fun, nerdy things on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. If you still want to watch more, check out the video on the screen right now, which is talking about our best guess at the plot of Deadpool 3 with Wolverine. There's a lot of evidence, a lot of comic book stuff in there. I think you're going to love it. Give it a click.